we go for launch.
5,
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4,
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3,
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2,
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen. And we are back. Welcome back to Planet 8 Podcast. Once again, we're joined with our friend Lord Blood-Rah. Thank you, Lord Blood-Rah. This go-round, we're going back to the rack, kids. The Planet 8 magazine rack, comic book rack. We're going to talk about these magazine supersized comic book kind of interview combination. Bob, take it away and let's get into this.
Well, yeah, we were talking, I think it was probably after an episode or before an episode, and we started talking about magazines and things. You know, obviously, Karen's got her Echoes from the Satellite, and she did her magazine episode. And so we thought, oh, maybe we should share magazines from our past and kind of, you know, how did we get into collecting these things? How did we find them? What was our source? Which ones do we have? I'm sure some of us have stuff that others don't, and vice versa. So yeah, we're definitely going to talk about some cool magazines, hopefully some magazines that our viewers may not have ever seen before. So if you're listening to the podcast, we'll try to be as descriptive as we can. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll make sure we hold them up and not get the glare in there. And let's see how we do. But yeah, it's going to be a whole episode on magazines. And I guess I can kick it off. This is the one I think was my first magazine, and it's called Movie Monsters. It's got a cool Harryhausen Cyclops on the cover. I was kind of flipping through this thing because I was looking online and I couldn't find any information at all in this magazine. They would just point to eBay listings of it. So I don't know much about the background, but I was looking through the names on here, and I didn't recognize many of the names, but one of the contributing editors is one Carl Maychek, who, when I read the name, I'm like, oh, I know Carl. Carl used to dub Japanese animation.
Oh.
And in fact, he was responsible for Robotech. But before he got into all of that, he was into movie monster magazines, and he was a contributing editor to this one.
Now, was that a series or a one-shot?
What's that?
Magazine?
Robotech?
No, that magazine, Movie Monsters.
There's a series because I saw some other issues available.
Okay.
And because we haven't brought him up on the podcast lately, there is a whole article on Sinbad. And if you can see on YouTube, it includes our buddy Popeye. From Popeye versus Sinbad. So I thought that was cool. And that has the greatest music of all time. Who's the most remarkable, extraordinary fellow? Yeah, so it's a cool magazine. And I think I've told on the show before, I used to get all my comic books at smoke shops. They all smelled like cigars when I'd read them. And so I think I was in there buying some comic books, and up on the rack was Movie Monsters. So I grabbed it, took it home, and it spurred my love for these types of things. So that's my first contribution.
All right.
Very cool. And I'm gonna say, if you're not on YouTube, get over on YouTube so you can check these out. If you can't, you can't. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are at 600 likes, and we're trying to get to 1,000.
We'll start doing some live podcasts once we get to 1,000. So,
We'll get all fancy.
oh yeah. Who'd like to go next, Lord Blood-Rah?
Sure. I'll go back all the way to actually it's the beginning of monster magazines with the granddaddy of them, Famous Monsters of Filmland. This is issue 32. So it's one of you can see it's not in great shape, but it's one of the older ones that I have. I've got issue 4 somewhere bagged and boarded and still also not in good shape.
Hermetically sealed.
Hermetically sealed, yeah. But the cover for this is great. It was about it's hawking a monster model kit building competition.
Ooh.
That was
is
kind of
great
pre
fun.
Basil Gogos.
Yes, right. And of course, what's one of the articles in here? Monsterland USA on the Munsters. This magazine was responsible for solidifying fandom, not only throughout the country, I think throughout the world. And of course, Forrest J. Ackerman, the man who started the magazine. The legend goes he was in France and saw a magazine on a rack that was all photos from classic horror films and thought, well, we need to do that in the United States. We wouldn't have to pay any licensing, really, because I own thousands upon thousands of stills and, bits of memorabilia. Went to James Warren, who was the publisher, and they kicked it off. And one of the really unique things about this magazine, and the thing that I looked forward to so much, other than the articles, were the ads. I mean, look at that. If you're our age and you see that, that takes you right back to your childhood, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that
I
amazing?
can't remember how many things I ordered off those pages, and I had the life-size Frankenstein with glow-in-the-dark eyes, and what it was it was Frankenstein, and it was just this flimsy plastic thing. It was sort of like trash bag material. It was Frankenstein, and you'd have to tape him up on your wall, and then the glow-in-the-dark eyes were 2 glowing paper punch outs like they did with like a hole punch, and you would basically stick those on his eyes. And
hilarious.
I was gonna say that was the thing. You'd see this stuff and you'd be like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
A vial of vampire blood, and you got this like bottle of liquid paste that is like
life-size rocket ship.
Yeah.
Submarine.
Look at that. The masks.
Those masks.
Old
Are those the
masks.
Dawn Post masks?
These are the top stones. These are
okay.
far cheaper and far less quality.
Those are kind of the flimsy rubber ones you'd find in like 7-Eleven.
That's right. That's right. As a matter of fact, last night I watched The Ghost of Dragstrip Hollow.
Oh.
And that, I mean, is a perfect parody of 50s teen movies. It's got the misunderstood teen, their parents don't get them. It's got drag racing, and then the last part of it ends in a haunted house. With the cameo by Paul Blaisdell himself.
That's right, without the mask.
Right, yeah, without the mask.
He's in his modified she creature costume.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, but they do like a haunted house party in there, and everybody was wearing Hopstone masks because they couldn't afford the Dawn Posts, I'm assuming.
Oh, I had one of Creature from the Black Lagoon with big red lips, and it had the fright hair on it, the white fright hair.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's long gone, but I've got a couple of Dawn Posts left, but yeah, that one's toast.
Oh yeah, unless I mean, it can go either way. You can either like take really great care of them and they will be preserved, or some people just throw them in a closet and they're fine. It goes either way. It's very strange.
Heads or tails.
But yeah, the old
spell.
Karen, what have we?
What have we? I was pouring through all these old magazines of various types and looking at them, and I realized that what they really meant to me as a kid. So I grew up in a really small town in Central California, Central Coast California. I think all of you guys were in the Bay Area. Am I correct? So you kind of had, I think you probably had a little more access to things. You were a little more savvy, you know.
A lot of good smoke shops.
You know, yeah, smoke shops. You know, so it was small town. I think when I was probably 8 or 9, it was maybe 30,000 people. So we had a lot of agriculture. We had oil fields. I'm, you know, setting the scene here, right?
Flower festival.
So it wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot happening. So for me, pre-internet era, this was like the magazines would bring news. So I would find out about like, oh, there's going to be this movie called Logan's Run, right? So I'd find out stuff. And then it also brought a sense of community that I couldn't get anywhere else because believe me, I was like the weirdo. There was nobody else who liked all this stuff. And being a girl, I was a double weirdo because girls weren't supposed to like this stuff. So reading these magazines, it was like, oh, there must be other people out there. And I would, you know, read this stuff. But it was funny. I was making an assumption that a different magazine was really my first experience with that. And then when I dug through the magazines, I realized, oh no, my real experience with that came elsewhere. And it started with Merry Old Marvel with Foom magazine. This was the fan club magazine. They started a fan club in the early 70s. And of course, right away, I was like, yes, I need this, Mom. You got to buy it. You got to buy it. And so you'd get the magazine and it had things like, here's the biographies of all the bullpen folks. And you could like read up like, oh, find out where Jerry Conway's from and all this other stuff. And then they had articles on the characters, but the stuff that was really cool to me was they would talk about what's coming up soon. You know, what new magazines are going to be out? What's happening in Hulk, you know? And you would read and see this stuff and it'd be like, oh boy, you know, they're going to have, you know, this villain or that villain or whatever. And of course, being, you know, like 8 years old, I would color stuff and, you know, I'd look at everything. Or like you guys are talking about, I would clip out the coupons so I could get a t-shirt, right? Thus destroying the magazine. But I think it was Foom magazine that was actually my first real experience with feeling like, oh, I'm sort of on the inside and I'm learning about all this stuff. And it's like,
there's other people like me out there.
Yeah. Even though I'm surrounded by all these like square people, there are other cool people out there somewhere who like this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was a big
of old Marvel.
Yeah, that was a big thing to me. So I think Foom started it, but then there was another magazine I'll talk about when we rotate around that really kicked it into high gear.
Kaboom! Larry, we can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Mr. Larry.
Sorry, I was unkeeping magazines and I hit mute. My favorite Walker memories is first meeting Karen, and my grandparents were from Central California, and there was this flower festival in one of the smaller towns, and she's like, yeah, I remember that. And, you know, going to the mall was a thing, and it's yeah, I remember the mall very well.
There wasn't a lot to do. You had to find ways to entertain yourself, and in some ways I'm grateful for that because I am never bored now. I can always entertain myself.
You can go to the mall anytime.
True. You know, this is a modern. Oh, sorry, that's not.
It was nothing pornographic. Listeners, it was not pornorgraphic.
No. This one has a centerfold and everything.
However.
Oh, that is.
Hey.
This is a more modern Dynamite Entertainment put this out. I'm a huge fan of Vampirella. And various models have you know, dressed up as her. It's a big popular cosplay. There's actually a movie with lead singer for the Who,
Roger Daltrey.
Roger Daltrey?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
As
from the 80s. As Vampirella, it's really weird.
And you know, this is let me make sure there's nothing well, no, that's inappropriate there. So
yeah, that one you got to pick and choose.
Here we go. For those of you on YouTube,
Oh, it's in color.
there's one section that's in color,
Oh,
but most of it is black and white, which is true to the original magazines that would come out, or comic books with Vampirella. I got this online, and it was a special edition, but that, as far as I know, they didn't have this on the rack. But yeah, it was very cool. It's an
It was in
interesting
the back
book.
room.
But I didn't see any ads in this. I guess because it's a modern release, they didn't have anything in here. But there's, yeah, the little section there with the color. And Vampirella is a very interesting character. If you guys have never gotten into the Vampirella mythology, it's a space vampire. And anyway, you can get a chance to check it out.
Like Life Force.
Like, oh, hey, you know what? Yeah, very much like
kind of, yeah, right.
Yeah, vampires and TNA. That was Vampirella in a nutshell.
Yeah. She's not naked throughout the entire run of the
No, she's not.
Magazines, though.
Might as well be.
Oh,
my big stack. And this big stack is this was my favorite one growing up. I was totally into Famous Monsters and everything else. I was getting all the issues, but nothing compared to the Monster Times.
Ah.
Now, this was more like a newspaper format. They had kind of a heavier stock for the cover, but the insides were just plain newspaper stock. I'm trying to see if I have one here that's not bagged up that I can show you.
They disintegrate so easily.
Yeah, I have one here that's almost done.
Well, you can see great edges on this thing.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, Monster Times. This came out from 1972 to about 1976. Here's one. And so it's basically, it opened up.
Oh, it tear from my own space.
Like a newsletter, or like a newspaper. And you could open it up there and check everything out. And each issue did have a centerfold.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's Worlds.
Yeah.
So a lot of people would buy 2 issues because they'd want to take the center page out and hang it up like a poster. But
they were only 50 cents.
Yeah. I mean, it's very cool. I was subscribed to it for a while until it hit its bitter end.
Yeah.
And in 1973, they held a poll. Who's the most popular monster? Can anyone guess who that would have been?
Creature from
73?
73. Not Creature from the Black Lagoon.
My vote is always Frankenstein.
That's what I was thinking.
Frankenstein.
Dracula?
It's not Dracula.
73.
Godzilla.
Oh.
Godzilla won.
Wow.
And so when the presidential election came up in 1976, they did a whole series of issues which would all have articles on Godzilla for president. There was also one of those mid fold out things that was a big Godzilla for president poster, which I think you can find online here and there. But if you go to Internet Archive, which is archive.org, and search for Famous Monsters, there's a whole run of the issues there on the Internet Archive.
Yeah, I love archive.org.
So,
yeah.
And then, one thing I was going to bring up, but I figured it'd be way too long to talk about it, would be fanzines. And I used to collect Japanese Fantasy Film Journal, Japanese Giants, all these, ones from Ed Gazzeski and Greg Shoemaker and Brad Boyle and all these different guys, Brad Gudmundson. And there's a guy, Brad Boyle, he goes by Bradford Boyle online. He scanned all those old fanzines and put them up on archive.org. So if you go to archive.org and just search JFFJ, which that was the granddaddy, Japanese Fantasy Film Journal, you search JFFJ and all these different fanzines will come up that he scanned and put in there,
Okay.
Wow.
including a magazine that I'm going to cover in my next segment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since
So
you guys were in the Bay Area, were you aware of or did you participate in APAs, which were like collected fanzines? I think it stood for Amateur Press Association. And so people would do their little fanzines, or their, not being derogatory, but they would do their fanzines, and then one person would like collect them all and distribute them.
No.
No.
no, it sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to get my hands on some of
Sounds
these.
better
I've
than
been
what I
reading a
got.
little bit about them.
So all right,
Awesome.
that was my
All right.
Mr.
Lord
Time.
Blood-Rah, what do you got
Time
for
to
us
read?
next? That was cool. Bob.
Kind of to circle back to you, Larry, at a really quick history lesson. Back in the 50s, the Comics Code Authority basically destroyed horror comics.
Right.
It was essentially a reaction by some parents groups, religious groups, to specifically EC horror comics, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Horror. So the comics code was basically meant you could not have any excessive violence, any excessive gore, no words that described horror. Really, they really kind of watered down comics and destroyed EC comics and horror comic books. That was in the 50s. In the early 60s, James Warren, who published Famous Monsters of Filmland, realized that the comics code was only specifically for publications in the comic book format. That size, that shape, comic books. It did not cover magazines. So he came out with Creepy magazine and Eerie magazine that are all horror comics, but and Creepy, by the way, was specifically horror. Eerie was more science fiction fantasy, and they were joined later by Vampirella, which was all
Well, if you
vampire
take the
kind
first
of
letter
gothic.
from Eerie and the first letter of Creepy and put them together, they are.
Say that again?
If you take the first letter from Eerie and the
Yes.
first letter from Creepy and put them together, what do you?
Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. I don't know if that was in his thinking, but
I
yeah,
didn't.
you're right. So these were black and white comics, very much in the tradition of the EC comics. Less gory. They were pushing it at this point, so less gory. I would say just as violent. Again, those great ads. All the Warren magazines had those fantastic ads.
Yeah.
And these magazines just took off. I mean, these magazines proved very popular. And when anything is popular, it generates knockoffs. So you had magazines like, was this Horror Tales, Tales of Voodoo, Witches' Tales, Tales from the Tomb, and Shock. Now, the thing about these magazines is they're incredibly cheap. But look at look at that cover. I mean, that is just a Halloween,
man.
isn't it? It's absolutely amazing.
You got a
And,
werewolf, a vampire. You got like
right?
everything you need on there, right?
Exactly, right? And inside it was all, black and white comics again. The artwork is it's okay. Some very good professional artists did work on them though. The thing about these magazines is, unlike Monster Times, these are printed very cheaply, but they're almost indestructible. I've had these. This one is from 1972.
Whoa.
I mean, most of these are from the 70s. This one's 71, and they're in reasonably good shape. And I have not treated them in
The
any
Monster
special way.
Times is like newsprint, so it tends to yellow over the years.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, these are. If you look at the pages, yeah, there's a good amount of yellowing there. So they're not, they're not pristine by any stretch. But fun reads. Very forgettable, little quick horror stories. There were some classic horror stories in Creepy and Eerie. As a matter of fact, the story Jennifer from Creepy was later remade for the Masters of Horror series. And I can't remember who directed that episode. I'm not quite sure, but it was a very good episode. So good writing, was good artwork, and saved horror comics. And now nobody pays attention to the comics art comic code authority, and thank God too.
I don't know if it even exists anymore.
It's gone. I mean, it was ignored to death. So
But because Marvel brought in Zuvembis.
Who's next? We got Karen again?
That would be Waka.
Yep.
Waka. So my next magazine, this is probably the magazine, this was what I was thinking of, that like really gave me that aha moment of like, oh, what's going on out there? And that would be Starlog.
Ooh.
So yes, I got in on Starlog with the first issue, which, originally they were planning to make a Star Trek magazine, but then wound up becoming a catch-all for all science fiction, which I'm very glad they went that direction, because there were other Star Trek magazines out there, and a lot of fanzines and other things. But what we were really missing was a good quality science fiction media magazine. And one of the things I appreciated about Starlog was that they covered a lot of different things. They covered science fiction films, but they also, they had news about all sorts of stuff going on. And this was interesting. In the 6th issue, they had a little blurb in here for a little movie called Star Wars that was going to be coming out soon. And they said that, let's see, a Star Wars scheduled for release this June is a massive sprawling spectacle of galactic repression, rebellion, and intrigue, featuring robot, human, and alien heroes, a captured princess, larger-than-life villains, and an ancient mysterious technique for working one's will known simply as the power. So maybe not always accurate, but they were trying. And at the time, one of the things that was really of interest to me was that they brought in Susan Sackett, who was Gene Roddenberry's secretary, and they did this thing called the Star Trek Report, because everybody was going, when is the Star Trek movie coming out? And, everybody, is it a TV show? Is it a movie? Nobody knows. And so in here, they answered some people's questions, and they said, will there be many changes in the Enterprise sets? And they said, as none of the original sets and props survived, everything will have to be built from scratch. They go on to say that the Enterprise will undergo a facelift. The exterior will be the same familiar Enterprise. Oh, really? And basically, you'll recognize the interiors, but they will be bigger and greatly updated to reflect new scientific concepts. And then it goes on to say that don't expect to see things from the Starfleet technical manual or the blueprints. It says, don't look for any ships of the Dreadnought class in the film. So I thought that was rather amusing.
Oh, that's interesting. That's it. That's a direct slight to Franz Joseph.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
And
I recently came to find that there's this huge debate on the Dreadnought being in the technical manual, that Starfleet wasn't supposed to be about battles and war, and the Dreadnought. And I'm like, wow.
There are so many paths you will go down with, the fans of the manual and the fans who just want to have battles in space. And one last thing I will say about Starlog. So Starlog number 7, which unfortunately falling apart. Some interesting little things in here. We have a report on Nichelle Nichols' company is working to recruit astronauts, which I just love, because they had all a variety of, things. They're talking about movies, but they're talking about NASA. And then finally, they have pictures from Star Wars. And this is what made me just insane, because they had, all these great photographs and stuff, but I didn't get to see it till July. So I'm looking at all these photos. losing my mind. And even in here, they had a lot of quotes that I think eventually we found like, oh no, these are inaccurate. But anyway, it was a great book. They had a great magazine. They talked about space. They talked about movies, and they had the ads and letters. So there was a great sense of community and just everything that I was looking for at that point in my life. And it ran quite a long time too. I mean, I know I stopped reading it long before it went out of business, but I have a lot of fondness for Starlog.
It's a great magazine. Yeah.
Let me just say, may the power be with you.
May the power.
That's charming. Let me tell you guys, listening to this on Spotify or Apple, head on over to YouTube. There is some great graphics. If for nothing else, the Vampirella is pulled out. But
Flash that again, Larry.
Yeah. Well, I was a big fan of Starlog as well, and it was cool. In the back of Starlog, you could start pen pals with people. There were clubs you could join related to Creature, Godzilla, whatever. And so that was a lot of fun. And a lot of times with famous monsters, Uncle Forey would write back to you, Forrest J. Ackerman. How he found the time, I don't know. But this to me is like one of the funnest. I mean, look at Robbie the robot, just dressed up like Sherlock Holmes. This sold me on the King Kong movie back in the 70s when they threw this ad. Of course, Kong looked nothing like that in the film, but still one's imagination would go wild, especially as a child.
Famous monsters, the big issue was 114. And that collected all their articles on all the Japanese monster films. It had the painting of Godzilla and Rodan on the cover.
I remember that.
I don't know where that is, unfortunately.
I mean, all my famous monsters are back in the Monster Garage, but I probably should have just pulled that one out. But
here we go.
There you go.
This is,
the interesting thing about that issue is originally when that movie was released here, it was Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster. And Universal came up and said, not so fast there. And so they changed it to Godzilla versus the Cosmic Monster, and they used the Basil Gogos cover from that issue as the movie poster, the one sheet.
Wow.
That is interesting.
Because they had to come up with something like quick.
I was waiting for them to have the Mechagodzilla motion go.
Right.
I don't know why. Well, probably because of the gorilla suit, but Kentucky Fried Movie. Kids, you're not old enough to watch Kentucky Fried Movie.
No.
It's 18 and over.
What's the better gorilla suit, Kentucky Fried Movie or Schlock?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'm going to go with Schlock. Early Rick Baker.
Yeah.
I don't think Kentucky Fried Movie's Rick Baker.
It's similar, but yeah, I don't know.
I do not own Schlock. I think I need to. I'll have to look around and see if
No, you don't.
out.
I was so looking forward to seeing Schlock because it's like, John Landis' first film and Rick Baker early film. Not that great.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that great. Kentucky Fried Movie is a far better comedy.
Yeah. Sorry, Lord Blood-Rah. Yeah, it is actually.
Yeah.
Bob?
Yes?
There's your Frankenstein.
There he is. He's right there.
By Jack Davis. That's a
Does it
great
say glow in the dark eyes on there? Or was that an earlier version?
No, you know what? This is just the black and white Jack Davis. But the way they sold it, 6 foot tall. And
I think mine was color, and the color was green.
Oh, see, this is black and white. But you read this, and you're like, it's only $1.50, Mom.
That's a bargain.
Like you said, it's a plastic, and you're like, what the heck?
Like printed on a trash bag.
Right.
Basically.
There was another one like that was the Moon Monster. That was another poster.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, I remember that. I never ordered either one of them.
But I tell you, you weren't cool unless you had your monster briefs.
Oh God.
I do not have monster briefs. I do have a pair of Ultraman briefs,
Oh, well, there you go.
but no monsters.
Well, you got time.
Ladies, have you heard that?
What was that?
I said, ladies, did you hear that?
That's right, ladies.
Ain't no lady seeing them right now.
Okay, back to you.
All right, this is the shameless self-promotion segment of the show. So I dig out all 3 issues of the late lamented Marcolite magazine. Marcolite magazine came out in like 89, 90. 3 issues before the publisher ran off with all the money. August Dragoni and I made this magazine, and we worked with Pacific Rim Publishing, who published it. And because they published it, I mean, it's all really nice, slick magazine paper. Covers are full color. Interiors were black and white, but it was a big step up from the fanzines that I mentioned earlier. And we went with 3 covers. We had issue 1 was from Godzilla versus Biollante. We had a whole big making of in there. Issue 2
I had that.
was Ultraman. And issue 3 was Yuji Kaida art from Monster Zero. Can you take a guess at which issue was the biggest seller?
I'd say Biollante because that's my favorite kaiju.
Nope.
Oh, well.
Ultraman
Mm.
was the biggest seller. So yeah, it was fun. It was kind of like at a time where we were right kind of at the cusp between cut and paste and desktop publishing. So we had to do it all desktop, all the text desktop, but then we'd have to go and paste the photos. And yeah, so it was kind of a hybrid type magazine. But we actually did 4 issues. 4th issue was going to be Kamen Rider. And yeah, publisher ran off. So we did turn in the boards for issue 4, but when he ran off, he just called me and said I left him on the porch, and they had moved out of the house and everything. They just gone. So I went and picked him up, and it was raining, and it had rained on the boards, and they were all just destroyed. So issue 4 is only in our minds. So we made 3 issues. After that, there was a magazine called G-Fan, which kind of took over that genre. I won't say anything about the publishers in that, but this particular issue I'm holding up, there's a huge article. It takes almost the whole magazine on Godzilla the series, the Sony Godzilla cartoon that was based on the 1998 movie, and it's much better than the movie. But I wrote the article. Keith Aiken helped out. We had storyboards and designs and photos and everything in there. And Keith, since he worked on the series, took this magazine to work and had everybody who worked on the series sign the cover. So there's like signatures all over the front. And then he did a little like map that he gave me that basically said what each signature was. Because some you can't, it's like, who knows what that name is. But so that was my foray. I've written for a ton of magazines, and I was going to drag them all out, but there was like way too many. But even like a couple Japanese, a couple magazines in Japan I wrote for. So yeah, I used to do that all the time. Now, these days I've got writer's block. I barely even write for Sci-Fi Japan, which is the website that Keith and I do. And I don't know. I used to write articles all the time, and now it's kind of got writer's block. I'll talk about stuff and go on the podcast, but I think my authoring days are over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Lord Blood-Rah, what do you got for us, buddy?
Again, back in prehistory, for modern Star Trek fans, they're good, especially with all of the Star Trek available now in all shapes and forms. Back from around 1970 to 1979, when the motion picture came out, other than the animated series and some novels that came out in the mid 70s and novelizations of the series, there was no new Star Trek. There was none. Star Trek fandom was in the hands of the fans, and the fans made fanzines.
Yep.
And this was my favorite one, Subspace. This was and actually produced in Northern California. This one's from 1975.
From anyone we know?
What?
From anyone we know?
I went through it. I don't think so. At least no names that ring a bell with me.
I mean, originally I was going to ask if those were by the Trimbles, but
oh no, it wasn't. But this had articles covered. It would cover conventions, original fan fiction, not what fanfic has come to mean. These were legit stories, not to diss fanfic, but these were stories that were not of the nature of what we think fanfic. Original
Not
fan
the
art.
slash stuff.
Slash, that's the word I was trying to come up with.
I remember the first time I ran into that stuff. I didn't quite know if I could survive.
Kirk and Spock would never do that.
Right. It was like, what?
And I love these original ship designs.
Oh, wow.
And of course, early 70s, this is before computers, so this is cut and paste and probably mimeographed, a redesign of the USS Enterprise.
I was trying to remember that word, mimeographed.
Xeroxed, I guess. Well, no, it was
mimeograph was like the purple page.
That's it.
Yeah,
you used to you get them in class and start sniffing them.
That's it. Yeah. Here's a redesign of the Enterprise.
Oh my God.
Looks like as done by RuPaul or something like that.
Where would you get these from?
These specifically, I got, and I don't know if they were ever sold anywhere else, from the Federation Trading Post in Berkeley.
Oh, wow.
Yep, I remember.
Which was the first local, I believe, the first.
Yeah, there's Federation Trading Post. There's also Starbase Central over in Union City.
There was also, that's right, Starbase Central.
I would have killed to have a place like that.
Basically, same thing. It would have games, starship designs, fiction. Kind of just a little fantasy. That's great.
My
there was
friend
also
James,
another one called Warp Factor.
Real quickly, my friend James used to love drawing dreadnought ships and frigates, and he would play Starfleet battles as well and come up with all these designs, and I have them somewhere. I'll have to dig them out and share them. It was very much like the design you just showed us.
Yeah, I've got some fan-made blueprints of ships from back in the day too. Yeah, in this one, Warp Factor, they would do knockoffs of the Franz Joseph technical manual, but new ships. So there's a Federation 4-banger there.
Wow.
I know, right? The battle.
What is that one going to do?
Who knows? But yeah.
Here's where I'm really, really, really going to age myself.
Okay.
But speaking of Star Trek, back when I was in sixth grade, I think, the classroom had a dot matrix printer, and the internet was where you had to dial a number, and you had a phone that you would stick into suction cups. And there was this Star Trek game on there. And basically what it would be is it would start out, it would print out a star field.
I think I remember this.
And then you'd have to punch in coordinates and hit, fire missile or whatever. But then you'd go back to your seat and you'd wait, because it would take half an hour before you got a response, and then you would hear it going,
Oh my God.
and at the end it would say miss. And then you had to go back in and put some more coordinates in and hit fire and go sit down for an hour and come back.
That's
Miss.
hilarious.
Yeah, that was the exciting extent of video games back then.
I just wanted to show this piece of fan art real quick because that reminds me of it's destroying an eagle from Space 1999.
Oh, wow.
Now that reminds, when I was in elementary school, there was a guy that I knew, Ruben Avila was his name, who was a huge fan of Space 1999, and said it was far better than Star Trek. So we actually
There were big debates like that back then.
We debated. We had a full-on debate about it, and I think I won. I don't even know if they bothered to
Sure
pick
you
it
did.
up, but, you know what? I watched a couple of episodes of Deep Space Nine recently. I won.
You mean Space 1999?
Space 1999.
I was going to say, because Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I said Deep Space Nine. Sorry, Space 1999.
It's okay. It's okay. I picked it up, but
yeah, I'm glad you picked that up. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not going to get into it.
That's for another show.
That's another show. There's a show premise.
Yeah, I just got the Blu-ray set of Space 19.
Did you really? Oh.
And I gave all my DVDs to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We need to cover that.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Now, not only the fanzines, but there were serialized novelizations. Dreadnought Explorations, the entire crew of the Enterprise gets transferred over to a Dreadnought.
Anybody who had access to a printer.
Yeah, right? I mean, this is guerrilla magazine making.
Wow.
They're staples. It's literally stapled.
Yeah, I mean, you would make pages, and then you'd Xerox a bunch of copies, and then you sit there and collate them and staple them together, and that was your fanzine.
That's exactly it. All of these they were labors of love. And again, that was when the fans carried the fandom and created the new Star Trek on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the day, and those were fun days.
Well, before it became, the franchise, if you go on YouTube, there's all these little 3-minute episodes of Star Trek this and Star Trek that, and
yes,
famously, the bridge and a lot of the set pieces for one of those web series is out in New York, and they do set tours, and they'll have Shatner and Walker and I talk about making time to go out there and just. I know.
I really want to get out. Well, the latest one, I think they just did the one with Shatner this weekend, but I looked it up 2 months ago, and they were already sold out. So we really have to plan way ahead to get out there.
Definitely.
Yeah, those fans, they kept it alive, right? I don't think we would have Star Trek if it wasn't for people like that who just loved the show so much.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You'd be able to go to conventions in the 70s before the film, well, even after the motion picture came out. And there were homemade shirts and tribbles and fanzines and, God, I wish I had half that stuff.
I still have my captain's tribble from the Federation Trading Post.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was cool. Let's go over to the Walker.
Well, I've got to make a decision because I know we're starting to run out of time here. So I think I'm going to go with another great magazine that was really wonderful in its coverage of films, and that was Fantastic Films.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it just a little lower than Starlog because Fantastic Films to me didn't cover quite as broad a subject area, and maybe was a little overly serious. I don't know. It's a little bit serious. But they had a lot of great articles and a lot of great pictures, and it was a really enjoyable magazine. And I picked out a couple of here that I thought were pretty interesting. Um, and I think this is really illustrative of things that are still going on today, in that they had this Clone Wars Explained. Okay, so this issue came out right after Empire Strikes Back came out. And they have this long article in here, and I want to make sure I give credit or blame where it's due.
Well, and Walker, let's make clear that there was no Clone Wars animated series at this
Right.
point.
All we
They're
had at this
just
point was
Star
Star Wars
Wars.
and Empire Strikes Back.
Right, right.
So Mr. Bill Hayes did a lot of speculating here, but apparently didn't. I don't know if he didn't believe that Vader was actually Luke's father or not, but he goes into a bunch of speculation about the fact that the next movie in the prequels, that would be, the first movie would be the Clone Wars in the prequel trilogy, and then goes off speculating that Obi-Wan would find a young boy who has a slave collar on, and he saves him, and the boy would give his name as Darth Vader. But when he tries to call Obi-Wan master, the great warrior admonishes him sternly. Upon their return to his ship, the Millennium Falcon, Obi-Wan watches the boy carefully. So he says that the Millennium Falcon, you would never have a name so grand for a smuggling ship, and that it was actually designed for the Jedi, and that the Jedi were all clones. That was his thinking, that the Clone Wars was going to reveal that the Jedi were a bunch of clones, and that they were clones who had, I think he was saying that the Force capability was cloned into them, essentially. Yeah, but just as an example of like the wild speculation that would occur with the fans having to wait, 2 or 3 years between films. And they said another reason that Vader couldn't be Luke's actual father, but that because Luke and Vader were both clones from the same stock, he could call himself his father. But he said, well, he didn't know where Yoda lived, so he couldn't really be Luke's father. And I love it. It's like silly and everything, but
Well, these guys had like a lot of time on their hands and access to some pretty good drugs.
So I think, when we talk about people going on and on today, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I feel like I see all the time on YouTube now, where people are speculating wildly about things in film, and now it's just like they do it on YouTube instead, right?
Not like we do that.
So, but yeah, I love that. And
well, I was thinking vlogs and podcasts and YouTube took the place of fanzines, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
True.
And I also just want to share, they had a beautiful cover here with the Enterprise. And then what do we have on the back? Dungeons and Dragons! Woohoo! Lots of Dungeons and Dragons stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, Fantastic Films was a great magazine, had a lot of great articles and photographs. Definitely my runner-up to Starlog as far as keeping informed on science fiction movies and getting all the lowdown kind of, what's going on behind the scenes. Although I will say that one article is a little bit unusual for the magazine, but I just loved it because it reminds me of what's happening still today.
That is great. When I was a kid, well, even sometimes now, as a kid, I would get in trouble for daydreaming in class. And I would daydream about, what does Chewbacca's planet look like and who built R2-D2. And so I appreciate articles like that. And I'd heard before that the Jedi were clones, and there was an Obi-Wan and an Obi.
That's what he says in the article, Obi-Wan. Yeah.
This is a charming story I read online. I don't know if it's true or not, but Ewan McGregor, who played the younger Obi-Wan in the prequels, his brother is like in the service. I can't remember if he's a police officer in the army in England, and they refer to him as Obi-2 because they know it's his brother. I thought that was kind of charming.
Did you ever see that? I don't know if it was a Looney Tunes or Merry Melodies, Warner Brothers cartoon about the kid daydreaming in class. He'd be sitting there at his desk, and then it's like suddenly his desk becomes an airplane and he's a pilot and he's fighting, and then it goes back into the class again, and then he's suddenly a pirate on a ship and all that. Yeah, that was kind of me anyway. It's cool.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
We're in good company.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I could not find it. It's in the back attic, and it's too hot right now to be rifling through the boxes. But I have the Star Wars giant size comic book, which and it's the original, so it's frayed at the edges and not really
Marvel Treasury one.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I found a reprint, and I'll tell you guys, if you get a chance to go to your local comic shop or toy store, keep going. These brick and mortars need our support like never before. And, we can all attest to our favorite shops going the way of the dodo. And yeah, Amazon's, convenient and, stuff like that. But go support these guys. I'm out there putting posters up and dropping off postcards and talking to them. And, the guy here in San Leandro, close to where I live, he's been broken into 3 times. And he doesn't have like Superman #1 up on his shelf. They're just taking like pops and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I never had the original. So when I found this reprint,
Oh,
now I may have shared this in a Censor Suite before.
you may want to say what it is.
These, you could open them up and it was like a little poster.
For those listening to the podcast, we're talking about an issue of
Superman versus Muhammad Ali. And if you're just listening, why haven't you gone to YouTube yet? You missed all these beautiful pieces of artwork that we've been sharing with you. Anyway, yeah, it's Superman versus Muhammad Ali. The fight to save Earth from Star Warriors. Now, when these things came out, they were like $1.25, $1.50. This sucker was $15. But look at that. The Great One knocks out Superman. These things
Had
were
to be.
gorgeous. What's that, Walker?
Oh, it had to be, right?
It had to be.
You couldn't have Muhammad Ali lose a fight.
And then, the aliens show up. So Muhammad Ali goes in there and starts whacking away and punching away. And anyway, why Muhammad Ali was not invited to the Justice League, I don't know. And spoiler alert, Superman, we are the greatest is the back page of the
You're the greatest, even though I kicked your ass.
That's some great Neil Adams art, though.
Yeah, I was going to say Neil Adams did a fantastic job. There are versions of this, like I said, the Star Wars was giant size. I want to say there's a Fantastic Four Galactus, Batman.
There's a ton.
I have a bunch.
Spider-Man and Superman.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Superman. What'd you say, Bob?
I have a bunch in the back monster garage.
We may have to do a part 2 to this sometime in the future because there's a lot of gems that we didn't quite have time to share.
Time to cover, yeah.
I think
there were actually 2 issues of the first one was Spider-Man or Superman versus Spider-Man, and the second one was Spider-Man and Superman. But I got those. I got Star Wars. I got a Thor issue, Avengers, bunch of stuff.
There was a bicentennial I had.
Yeah, the Captain America bicentennial thing.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I had a ton of those that all got eaten by like silverfish.
Oh.
Yeah. Wasn't pretty.
No, doesn't sound pretty.
Mm.
We should probably call it now and start getting into our Censor Suite. We don't want to drag this on too far. Those of you listening, those of you on YouTube, go to the social media pages, comment, let us know some of your favorite comic book fanzines, issues of Famous Monsters, Starlog, etc. We would love to hear from you. Let us throw the Censor Sweep over to Lord Blood-Rah. What have you to share with us, Lord Blood-Rah?
Basically the same thing as last time. Go to lordbloodrah.com to check out my series on YouTube, which for the last few weeks have been all new episodes. I'm wrapping up season 14.
Wow.
And as of the recording of this, I've just released the first part of a duology of Mexican vampire films. The first one is The Bloody Vampire, and next week I'll be releasing Invasion of the Vampires. And I'll put them into one playlist as the Count Frankenhausen saga. And these are Mexican vampire films dubbed by the great K. Gordon Murray, who brought El Santo films and dubbed them in English here to the United States. The wild holiday Mexican film Santa Claus, that's a K. Gordon Murray dubbing job. And these films are surprisingly effective and gothic. They almost look like Italian gothic horror films. And again, the first one is The Bloody Vampire. Next one will be Invasion of the Vampires. After that, I've got a couple of new episodes coming up, and that'll close out season 14. And I'm already planning season 15. So to get that, to get access to episodes of my podcast, everything else I'm doing, go to lordbloodrah.com. You'll find it all there.
Awesome. Thank you. Bob, what you got for us, bud?
Well, I was hoping to share this. I'm going to share it for the censor suite.
Sorry about that.
Other than I did find, I don't even remember where I got it, a magazine from Denmark called Pranke.
Oh,
A picture of
wow.
Gulala on the front, and a couple pictures from Yog, Monster from Space, or Space Amoeba on the back.
Nice.
And then this is a magazine that everybody should own. Cinefantastique, but not just Cinefantastique. This is the issue covering movie poster art. And it has art in here by Reynold Brown, Joseph Smith, Albert Callis, and just full color reproductions of things like Invasion of the Saucermen. And you've got a big, I think that's from Land Unknown. And then you've got Amazing Colossal Man. So there's a bunch of cool, very cool poster art in there. But related to our subject matter today, I did pick this up maybe about a year ago. There was a magazine, old monster magazine called Fantastic Monsters of Films. And that was by Paul Blaisdell and Bob Burns.
That's right.
And it lasted like, I don't know, maybe 13, 14 issues. But you can go, I think I got this on Amazon. It's the complete run of Fantastic Monsters of the Films. And it reprints every single issue, cover and all, in a really nice book, hardcover book format.
Oh, that's great.
So the articles are great because, these are written by Bob Burns and Paul Blaisdell that worked on the movie. So it's not like they're thinking about how things are done. They're telling you exactly how things are done.
Well, that's great.
And again, it's a pretty thick book. Lots of pages, hardcover,
It's a big one.
it's heavy. And Fantastic Monsters of the Films. So
Cool.
that was my thing to share.
Nice.
Go to
Let's go-
GodzillaTalks.com. There's little updates on there.
Oh, that's right. Waka.
Well, I don't have anything. Well, I do. I have like a huge stack of magazines, but I'll wait for round two
Yeah, we got to do a round two.
Yeah, absolutely.
for the magazines. I'll throw in a plug for my YouTube channel, Echoes from the Satellite. As of this recording, most recent episode is Did Apple Murder Murderbot? So I'm talking about the Murderbot series and the Murderbot Diaries, which is the book that, or book series that they have taken and turned into a TV series, which I'm not super pleased with, as you could probably tell from the title. So anyway, if folks want to tune into that, it's 15 minutes of your life or less if you put it on, double speed. So there's that. And I've been trying to get together another episode based off of a book I got, which is nowhere around here, but it's Arthur C. Clarke's Lost Worlds of 2001. So I want to compare some of the ideas and stories that they were looking at, and then what ultimately evolved into 2001, the film. Because people always say, oh, the Sentinel was what they based 2001 on. And it's like, that's like saying, I don't know what, like a kid's go-kart is what they based a Ferrari on. So there's a lot of differences. So I'm slowly getting that together.
Awesome. I'm a huge ROM Space Knight fan. It's one of the first, before the 3¼ inch GI Joe toys tied into comic books. And ROM was one of the first. And, they were really trying to sell ROM. I think it was his 3rd or 4th issue. The X-Men showed up. And so Marvel Legends has finally come out with a ROM Space Knight figure. That's kind of
very nice.
Cool.
Here's the line. Marvel Legends always has like 5 or 6 different characters. So you got a version of Spider-Man, you got ROM, you have a version of Wolverine, Iron Man, etc.
Is he going to stay on the package? Is he going to stay?
This is on the package, and this is the one that got opened.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to share just came in. You didn't see Lieutenant Jasmine walk in, but when I got the alert, this is the Lancelot Link DVD set.
Oh my God.
That just came in from Amazon. And stay tuned because you may hear more about Lancelot Link in the next
Lancy.
So
oh my God.
Let me ask you guys.
I hope it's on YouTube.
I might have to loan you my copy. We'll see.
I think there are some episodes on YouTube. I think.
There you go. Has anyone seen the Frankenstein trailer?
Yes.
What do you think?
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Much better looking than the Wolfman.
Oh. No kidding.
I have not. Has everyone seen the new Wolfman? I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it. I didn't see the thing. If I could see it for free somewhere, I might check it out. But I've heard nothing but trash about it.
Yeah.
Well, and I try not to go by what the critics say.
Right.
But yeah, it really was bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna see it. But this Frankenstein looks faithful. It looks beautiful, as any film from Guillermo del Toro would look beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it's the fact that it's by del Toro, that there was some love put into it.
Right.
Absolutely.
There was some love and some definite thought. I don't know that this is going to be part of the quote-unquote monster universe, which the Wolfman and the Invisible Man film prior to the Wolfman is supposedly what they're trying to do once again. I know
that Tom Cruise mummy movie.
No, what studio? I didn't notice what studio it's from. So
I think this is more like what was the thing, the creature that he did, the Love of Water or
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. I think it's
Well, it's on Netflix. I was a little surprised because I thought it was actually going to be out in the theaters, but
I thought it was going to drop in theaters as well. But
either way, yeah, it looks wonderful.
It does.
I got very excited.
Although why is it coming out in November? It should be coming out in October.
That's
it's
right.
like I don't know.
Right. A Halloween release.
Pushed back due to production issues or something? Who knows?
We need to get jobs at Netflix and help them, folks.
By the way, I'd like to add that before people comment, we know that we've left out a whole bunch of magazines. We haven't mentioned Fangoria. We haven't mentioned Monster World, Castle of Frankenstein, all of those things. That'll be in round 2.
Little Shop of
I'm
Horrors.
confident we're going to do a round 2.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lord Blood-Rah. So, Dawn,
I just ordered Little Shop of Horrors number 43 from Amazon because when I was researching the Monster Times, it said that there's a huge article in that on the Monster Times, and it talks to a lot of the people that worked on the magazine and everything else. So
Walker, stop spoiling for the next episode. I love the 40 Times, by the way. That was another. Walker has so enhanced my world with all these things and Dungeons and Dragons and 40 Times and things of that nature. Fantastic Four. You guys ready?
yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking
Okay.
forward to it.
Here we are in the month of June, so the clock's ticking.
we got Fantastic Four and Superman coming up.
You guys
close.
excited about Superman? My friend Jay is like, I've had enough Superman with the TV show, the movies, the Justice League.
I gotta say, Superman and Lois, to me, set the bar. So it's gonna be hard for this guy to match up, but we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I love Zack Snyder's version of Superman. A lot of people obviously don't, but that's okay. I still love you guys.
I was okay with Zack Snyder's Superman.
What's that, Frank?
I was okay with Zack Snyder's Superman.
Just not
that Batman that I didn't care for.
Well, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Well, like I said, if you guys get a chance, watch the final season of Superman and Lois. You don't need to watch any of the other seasons, but watch the final season.
I tell you, Bob, I watched it up to the final season, and then I watched like the last 3 episodes because of conversations that you and I had. And yeah, the bar was set very high, and it ended with man tears. So
yeah, that was quite an ending. But
yeah,
definitely something to check out.
Okay, so
what else is coming out? I know there's other things coming out.
Superman might be something that we're talking about then, coming on a future podcast potentially, maybe.
Well, we've never actually done an episode on Superman.
We did Superman.
We did it on Superman the movie.
Yeah.
Christopher Reeves,
but not on
the
Superman. Like we did Batman and we did Spider-Man, but we never did Superman.
Okay, well, something to think about. Yeah, as far as other things coming out, that was everything on my radar.
I might go see Ballerina. I'm kind of intrigued.
I heard, I
was watching the trailer and it was like she's kicking everybody's ass, and then suddenly there's only one person that can stop her, and here comes John Wick. I'm like, wait, he died. No, he's dead. How the hell? And then she goes into the Continental, and there's a concierge, and the actor is dead. It's like, how did they get him in there? It's like, I'm intrigued. I found out it takes place between John Wick 2 and 3, but I don't know if they used old scenes of him, of the concierge, or if it's they did CG something, or I have no idea. But he's saying there, welcome to the Continental.
I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see. Anybody watch The Last of Us?
Yeah.
I have not seen any of it yet.
No,
Not any of
not
it.
yet.
Pretty damn good, I'll tell you. So we'll save it till at least Walker catches up. You're watching it though, right, Walker? You're just not caught up, or you're just
No, I'm gonna wait, and then I'm gonna binge it all. I saw the first season. I'll wait. Right now we're doing a what is it? A free trial of AMC so we can watch Dark Winds season 3. That is a good show. If you guys aren't watching that, you should be watching Dark Winds, because there's just it's the Navajo policeman out in the desert, but there's a supernatural kind of edge to things. It's really good acting. It's just a great show.
They're on the res, right? That's their jurisdiction. I saw the first season.
Yeah, it's top-notch stuff.
My mom's a huge fan of it, and it's like, son, you have to catch up. I'm like, I know, Mom. I got
there's so many things to watch. I'm gonna go walk the dog, and then I'm gonna watch the latest Dead City. So
there you go.
I'm actually mildly excited that King of the Hill is coming back.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about that show in years.
God, King of the Hill's coming back.
Yeah.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer's coming back.
I hadn't heard that.
What was the other one? Malcolm in the Middle's coming back.
Oh my God.
So They have all the original actors in Malcolm in the Middle, except for the actor who played Dewey. They had to replace him for some reason. I guess he retired or something. But all the other actors, Bryan Cranston, everybody, they're all coming back.
Oh, wow. Doubling back really quickly to the Supernatural, the Mystery of Skinwalker Ranch,
yes,
the new season, I believe, premieres this week.
Okay, I think I'm caught up on that.
All right.
I was even watching, it was Beyond Skinwalker Ranch or something, where they had
the I've seen episodes of that, but Skinwalker Ranch itself, I was so thrilled when the series came out because I have been hearing legends of Skinwalker Ranch for so long that I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my TV addictions.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, thank you for showing up today and doing this podcast. It was a lot of fun.
Showing up and showing off.
Yeah, right. Right.
We are also very what?
This episode begs for a part 2.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it'll happen. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. Look, thank you guys for tuning in, for listening, for watching. If you haven't watched, go over to YouTube. I'm telling you, it's worth it, especially today. Vampirella, come on. We appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Planet 8 signing off. Live long and prosper. May the power be with you.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.